General Minho stood on the observation deck of the flagship Unity, looking out at the fleet that had gathered around Earth. It was the largest military force in human history. Ships from every nation floated together, their lights blinking in the darkness like a field of stars. 1 year had passed since the Council's declaration of war. 1 year of fighting, of sacrifice, of victory and loss. And now, finally, humanity was ready to take the next step. Behind him, the door opened. Admiral Doan entered, walking slowly with a cane. He was old now, his hair completely white, his body weakened by age. But his eyes were still sharp. "General," Doan said, "the fleet reports ready. All ships are in position. We are waiting for your command." Minho turned to face the old admiral. "I remember when you first told me about this plan. I was just a lieutenant then. I thought you were crazy." Doan smiled. "I remember. You said that hiding a fleet for 50 years was impossible. You said the aliens would find us. You said we would never be able to keep the secret." "I was young and stupid," Minho admitted. "I did not understand what humans could do when we worked together." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the fleet. Thousands of ships, crewed by millions of humans from every nation on Earth. Scientists and soldiers. Engineers and pilots, men and women who had dedicated their lives to this moment. "The Council has requested a ceasefire," Dohan said. "They want to negotiate." Minho nodded. He had seen the reports. The war had not gone well for the Council. Human fleets had pushed them out of 7-star systems. Human weapons had destroyed 4 of their main staging bases. And across the galaxy, species that had been loyal to the Council were now questioning their leaders. "What do you think we should do?" Minho asked. Dahan was quiet for a long moment. "I spent my whole life trying to make peace with them. I believed that if we just kept talking, kept trying, they would eventually accept us. I was wrong." He walked to the window and placed his hand against the glass. "But I also believe that war should never be the goal. War is a tool. We use it to create the conditions for peace. The question is, have we created those conditions yet?" Minho joined him at the window. "The Council still exists. They still have more ships than us, more resources. If we stop now, they will rebuild. In 100 years, they might be strong enough to attack us again. Or," Dohan said, "we could accept the ceasefire and use the time to grow stronger ourselves. We could colonize new worlds. We could make alliances with the species that are turning against the Council. We could become so powerful that no one would ever dare attack us again." It was a difficult choice. Continue fighting and risk everything, or accept peace and hope that it would last. The door opened again. Commander Yuna entered, followed by Captain Taiho and Lieutenant Hana. The leaders of humanity's military had gathered together for the first time since the war began. "General," Yuna said, "the Council is waiting for our response. What are your orders?" Minho looked at each of them in turn. Dohan, the diplomat who had finally learned that some enemies could not be reasoned with. Yuna, the commander who had turned humanity's secret fleet into a weapon of liberation. Taiho, the captain who had led the first battle against the Council. Hana, the lieutenant whose words had inspired millions of aliens to question their masters. These were the people who had made humanity's victory possible. These were the heroes of the war. "I have made my decision," Minho said. "Send this message to the Council." He spoke slowly, making sure everyone heard every word. "Humanity accepts your request for a ceasefire, but we have conditions. First, Earth will be recognized as a sovereign power, equal to any member of the Council. Second, all species currently under Council control will be given the choice to leave and govern themselves. Third, the Council will never again threaten or attack humanity or any species under our protection." Yuna raised an eyebrow. Those are strong demands. The Council may not accept. Then the war continues, Minho replied. We have waited 50 years for recognition. We have fought for 1 year to earn it. We will not accept anything less than full equality. Hana moved to the communications station and began preparing the message. The others watched in silence as she transmitted humanity's terms across the galaxy. The response came within an hour. The Council agreed to everything. In the command center, humans cheered and embraced. On Earth, celebrations erupted in every city. After 50 years of rejection and 1 year of war, humanity had finally achieved what it had always wanted. But Minho did not celebrate. He stood alone at the window, watching the stars. You look troubled, Doan said, joining him. We won. Why are you not happy? Minho shook his head. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. We have shown the galaxy that humanity can fight. Now we have to show them that we can build, that we can lead, that we are worthy of the power we have taken. He turned to face the old admiral. The Council was right about one thing. We are dangerous. We have the capacity for terrible violence. The same drive that made us build this fleet could be turned toward conquest, toward domination, toward becoming exactly what the Council feared we would become. Dalheim nodded slowly. So what do? Minho looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of alien species were watching humanity. Some with hope, some with fear, some with hatred. They were all waiting to see what humans would do next. We proved them wrong, Minho said. We use our strength to protect the weak. We use our intelligence to solve problems, not create them. We use our determination to build a galaxy where every species can live in freedom. He smiled, and for the first time since the war began, the smile reached his eyes. The Council locked us in a cage for 50 years. They thought they could keep us small and weak forever. But they forgot something important about humans. We do not just survive. We grow. We adapt. We become more than we were before. The fleet began to move, spreading out toward the stars. The first human colonies would be established within months. The first alliances with former Council species would be signed within years. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was leading the change. 50 years ago, Minho said, we looked up at the stars and wondered if we would ever be allowed to join the galactic community. Now we are going to build a new community, one where species are judged by their actions, not by their nature. One where every world has a voice. One where war is the last resort, not the first. Dohan placed his hand on Minho's shoulder. And if the Council tries to stop us? Minho's smile turned cold for just a moment. Then we remind them why they were so afraid of us in the first place. The stars waited. The galaxy waited. And humanity, finally free, stepped forward to claim its destiny. Earth had gotten exactly what it wanted. Now it was time to show the universe what humanity could truly become. Lieutenant Hana sat in the communications center of the Earth Defense Command, her fingers moving across the keyboard faster than anyone could follow. She was the best at her job. That was why they had chosen her for this mission. The first battle was over. The Council fleet had retreated, leaving behind the burning wreckage of 3,000 ships. Human losses were much smaller. Only 400 vessels destroyed. It was a victory beyond anything the military planners had expected, but the war was just beginning. The Council had thousands more ships, millions more soldiers, resources from hundreds of star systems. They would be back. They would learn from their mistakes. They would adapt. That was why Hana's mission was so important. The real battle was not fought with weapons alone. It was fought with words, with ideas, with the power to change how the galaxy saw humanity. Lieutenant, her commanding officer said, Are the transmission arrays ready? Hannah nodded. All systems are online, sir. We can broadcast on every known frequency in the galaxy. Every species with a receiver will hear our message. The officer looked at the script in his hands. It had been written by a team of diplomats, psychologists, and military strategists. Every word had been chosen carefully. This message would shape how the galaxy responded to the war. Commander Yuna has approved the final version, he said. You may begin the broadcast. Hannah took a deep breath. She pressed the button that would send her voice across the stars. And then she spoke. To all species of the Galactic Council, and to all free peoples of the galaxy, this is a message from humanity. In every corner of the galaxy, beings stopped what they were doing. On space stations and planetary surfaces, in ships traveling between systems. On worlds that humanity had never even heard of. Aliens listened to the strange voice speaking in their languages. 3 days ago, the Galactic Council declared war on our species. They sent a fleet to destroy our homeworld. They expected us to surrender. They expected us to beg for mercy. They were wrong. Hannah paused to let the words sink in. She imagined billions of alien creatures, many of whom had never seen a human, hearing this message for the first time. We did not start this war. We asked for peace. For 50 years, we sent diplomats to the Council. We requested the chance to join galactic society. We wanted to trade, to learn, to share knowledge with other species. Every time, we were rejected. We were called primitive. We were called dangerous. We were told that we would never be accepted. The message continued, broadcast across every frequency. Hannah's voice was calm and steady, but beneath the words was steel. The Council believes that might makes right. They believe that the strong can do whatever they want to the weak. They attacked us because they thought we were helpless. They thought they could destroy us without consequence. But they made a mistake. They forgot something important about humans. Around the galaxy, commanders of Council fleets felt cold fear in their hearts. Civilians of Council species looked at each other with worried eyes. Something was different about these humans. Something they had not expected. Humans do not surrender, Hannah said. Humans do not give up. When we are knocked down, we get back up. When we are told something is impossible, we find a way to do it anyway. We have survived ice ages. We have survived plagues. We have survived wars that almost destroyed our entire civilization. And we are still here. She leaned closer to the microphone, her voice growing stronger. We do not want to conquer the galaxy. We do not want to rule over other species. We simply want what every intelligent species wants: the freedom to live, to grow, to explore the universe. The Council has decided that we do not deserve this freedom. They have decided that humanity must be destroyed. But we reject that decision. The next words were the most important. Hannah spoke them slowly, making sure every syllable was clear. To the species of the Council, you do not have to be our enemies. Your leaders declared this war, not you. If you choose peace, we will accept peace. If you refuse to fight against us, we will not fight against you. We only ask that you give us the same respect you would give to any other species in the galaxy. Hannah glanced at her commander. He nodded. She continued, but to those who continue to attack us, who follow the Council's orders to destroy our people, we have a different message. We will defend ourselves. We will fight back. And we will not stop until we have won. This is not a threat. This is a promise. She took one final breath. The Council wanted a war. Earth accepts. But when this war ends, it will be humanity standing victorious. Not because we are the strongest. Not because we are the most advanced. But because we are the most determined. We have spent our entire history fighting for survival. We are very, very good at it." The transmission ended. Silence filled the communications center. Hana sat back in her chair, exhausted. She had just spoken to more beings than any human in history. She had no idea how they would react, but across the galaxy, reactions were already beginning. On some worlds, council leaders tried to suppress the message. They told their people that it was propaganda, that humans were lying monsters who wanted to enslave the galaxy. Some people believed them, but many did not. The truth was that the council had been a bully for too long. Many species had been forced to join against their will. Many had been threatened, conquered, or absorbed into the council's control. And now, for the first time, someone was standing up to them. On a small planet near the edge of council space, a young alien named Kivu listened to the human message with wide eyes. His species had joined the council centuries ago, after being threatened with destruction. They had always been treated as second-class members, useful but not respected. "They are actually fighting back," Kivu whispered to his friend. "The humans are actually winning." His friend looked nervous. "We should not talk about this." The council monitors communications. But Kivu could not stop thinking about the human words. "We simply want freedom. If you choose peace, we will accept peace. What if the humans were telling the truth? What if there was another way?" Similar thoughts spread through the galaxy like fire. Species that had been loyal to the council for generations began to question their leaders. Why had they attacked the humans without provocation? Why were they so afraid of one small species on one small planet? And most importantly, if the humans could resist the council, could others do the same? The council had made a terrible mistake. They had thought that declaring war on humanity would be a simple matter of crushing a weak enemy. Instead, they had given the galaxy something far more dangerous than any weapon. They had given the galaxy hope, and hope, once released, could never be put back in its cage. Captain Taiho watched the alien fleet approach from the bridge of his ship, the Hammer of Soul. Through the viewport, he could see the enemy vessels jumping into the solar system. There were hundreds of them, then thousands, then more than any scanner could count. The council had sent a massive force. They wanted to end this war quickly. They wanted to crush humanity with overwhelming numbers before the humans could react. Taiho almost felt sorry for them. "Captain," his navigation officer said, "enemy fleet has taken position near Jupiter. They are holding formation. I think they are waiting." "Of course they are waiting," Taiho replied. "They are giving speeches, making announcements, telling each other how easy this will be. That is what the council always does. They talk before they fight." His weapons officer, a young woman named Yunji, looked nervous. "Sir, our orders say to wait for Commander Yuna's signal. But the alien fleet is very large. Are we really going to fight all of them?" Taiho leaned back in his chair. "Let me tell you a story, Yunji. When I was a child, my grandfather told me about a war that happened long ago on Earth. A small nation was attacked by a much larger empire. Everyone said the small nation would lose, but they did not lose. Do you know why?" Yunji shook her head. "Because the larger empire made a mistake," Taiho said. "They thought size was everything. They thought numbers would decide the battle. But the small nation had better technology, better tactics, better soldiers. And most importantly, they had something worth fighting for." He pointed at the alien fleet on the screen. "The council has numbers, but we have everything else." A signal flashed on the communication panel. It was time. "All stations, prepare for Operation Sunrise," Taiho announced. "Power up all systems, activate stealth shields, and open the hidden hangars." Across the solar system, humanity revealed its secret. On the dark side of the moon, mountains split apart to reveal massive shipyards. In the asteroid belt, what looked like ordinary rocks opened up to become fortress stations. Near Mars, the red dust shifted as underground bases raised their weapons toward the sky. And the ships. Thousands of ships that had been hiding in the shadows, waiting for this moment. They powered up their engines and emerged from their hiding, places like predators waking from a long sleep. The alien fleet detected the change immediately. Their sensors lit up with warnings. New contacts appearing everywhere. More ships than they had expected. Much more. On the Council flagship, Admiral Volker of the Mantari species watched his screens with growing horror. His species had evolved on a world of ice, and his blood was always cold. But now, for the first time in his life, he felt something like fear. How many ships? He demanded. How many do the humans have? His tactical officer checked the data 3 times before answering. Admiral, our initial reports said Earth had fewer than 50 military vessels. But we are now detecting over 8,000 combat-ready ships. And more are appearing every minute. 8,000 ships. The Council had sent 12,000, expecting to outnumber the humans by more than 200 to 1. But the real ratio was barely 3 to 2. And human ships were moving in formations that Volker had never seen before, using tactics that his species had never imagined. How is this possible? Volker whispered. How did they hide an entire fleet? The answer came from a human transmission that suddenly appeared on every screen in the alien fleet. A human woman in a military uniform looked directly at the camera. Behind her, the stars burned bright. This is Commander Yuna of the United Earth Defense Force, she said. Her voice was calm and steady. We received your declaration of war. We accept. Volker ordered his communications officer to trace the transmission. It was coming from a massive ship near Neptune, a vessel that the Council had completely missed in their surveys. For 50 years, we asked you for peace, Commander Yuna continued. For 50 years, we begged you to accept us. And for 50 years, you treated us like insects to be stepped on. You called us primitive. You called us dangerous. You said we would never be allowed to join your precious council. On the screen, images appeared behind her. Human history, the great wars, the terrible weapons, the destruction that humanity had brought upon itself over the centuries. But also the rebuilding, the progress, the moments when humans had come together to achieve the impossible. You were right about one thing, Yuna said. We are dangerous, but not because we are violent. We are dangerous because we never give up. We are dangerous because we learn from every failure. We are dangerous because when we want something, we find a way to get it. Her eyes seemed to look directly at Admiral Volker. You wanted a war. Now you have one. But I promise you this. When this war is over, Earth will not be the one begging for mercy. The transmission ended. The alien fleet was still trying to process what they had seen when the human ships attacked. Captain, Taiho felt the hammer of Soul surge forward as its engines reached full power. Around him, the crew worked with perfect precision. Every person knew their job. Every system functioned flawlessly. They had trained for this moment for years. Fire all forward weapons, Taiho ordered. Target their command ships first. Cut off the head, and the body will fall. The first shots of the war blazed across the darkness of space. Human missiles, using technology that the Council had never seen before, tore through alien shields like paper. Human energy weapons, powered by engines that should have been impossible, burned holes through alien armor. The Council fleet tried to respond, but their commanders were confused. They had expected to fight primitive ships with outdated weapons. Instead, they faced a fleet that was just as advanced as their own. Maybe more advanced. Admiral Volker watched in horror as his ships began to explode. 1, then 10. then 100. The humans were not just fighting. They were winning. Fall back, he ordered. All ships, fall back to secondary positions. But the humans followed. Their ships were faster, more agile, designed by engineers who had spent decades studying every alien vessel they could find. They knew the weaknesses of Council technology better than the Council did. Tejo smiled as he watched the enemy retreat. This was just the beginning. The Council had wanted to destroy humanity. Instead, they had awakened something far more terrifying than they could have imagined. They had awakened a species that had spent 10,000 years learning how to wage war. And now that species had finally found an enemy worthy of its full attention. The galaxy would never be the same again. The message came at midnight, when most of Earth was sleeping. Commander Yuna was not sleeping. She never slept much anymore. There was too much work to do, too many preparations to make, too many secrets to keep. She was in the command center beneath the mountains of Korea when the alarm started. Red lights flashed across every screen. Officers jumped to their stations. Voices filled the air with urgent reports. Unknown signal detected, someone shouted. It is coming from outside the solar system. Can you identify the source? Yuna asked. Her voice was calm. She had trained for this moment her entire life. It matches Council transmission patterns, the officer replied. Commander, this is an official communication from the Galactic Council. They are broadcasting on all frequencies. The entire planet will receive this message in approximately 3 minutes. Yuna felt her heart beat faster, but she did not let it show on her face. She walked to the main display screen and watched as the alien symbols appeared. The computer began translating the message into Korean, then English, then every other language on Earth. The words were simple. The meaning was clear. To the species known as humanity, the message said, the Galactic Council has reviewed your continued violations of territorial boundaries. Your attempts to expand beyond your designated zone have been noted. Your development of unauthorized technology has been observed. Your repeated requests for Council membership have been considered and rejected. Yuna smiled slightly. Violations, unauthorized technology. The Council had been watching them more closely than she had thought. The message continued. By unanimous vote, the Galactic Council has determined that humanity poses an unacceptable threat to galactic stability. Effective immediately, the species known as humanity is declared an enemy of the Council. All Council member species are hereby authorized to take whatever actions are necessary to neutralize this threat. Around her, the officers had gone silent. Some of them looked scared. Others looked confused. A few looked angry. But Yuna felt none of these things. She felt only satisfaction. They finally did it, she said quietly. They finally gave us what we wanted. Her second in command, a tall man named Junho, stepped forward. Commander, this is a declaration of war. The Council controls over 2,000 species. They have millions of warships. How can we possibly fight them all? Yuna turned to look at him. Do you know why the Council really fears us, Junho? It is not because we are violent. Many species are violent. It is not because we have weapons. Many species have weapons. She walked to a different screen and began entering commands. They fear us because we learn. Every species in the galaxy has a specialty. Some are good at building. Some are good at science. Some are good at trade. But humans are good at everything. We adapt. We improve. We take the best ideas from others and make them better. The screen lit up with images. Hidden bases on the far side of the moon. Factories buried deep beneath the ice of Antarctica. Shipyards floating in the asteroid belt, invisible to alien sensors. For 50 years, we studied their technology, Yuna said. Every probe they sent to watch us, we captured. Every signal they broadcast, we decoded. Every weapon they demonstrated, we copied and improved. Junho stared at the images. His mouth fell open. This is impossible. How did we build all of this without anyone knowing? Everyone knew, Yuna replied. Everyone who needed to know. The governments of Earth have been working together in secret for decades. Every nation contributed resources. Every scientist contributed knowledge. We built this fleet together, as one species, united by one goal. She brought up another image. Thousands of ships waiting in the darkness of space. They were beautiful and terrible at the same time. Sleek and fast, built for speed. Heavy and armored, built for battle. Some were as small as fighters. Others were as large as cities. We have been waiting for this day, Yuna said. The council gave us no choice. They refused to accept us as friends. They treated us like animals. They locked us in a cage and told us we would never be free. She turned back to Junho. But now they have made a mistake. They have declared war on us. They have told the entire galaxy that humanity is their enemy. And that means we no longer have to pretend to be peaceful. We no longer have to beg for permission. We can finally show them who we really are. The main screen flickered. A new transmission was coming in. This one was from Earth's governments. Leaders from every nation appeared on the screen, their faces serious and determined. Commander Yuna, the President of the United States, said, "We have received the Council's declaration. All Earth governments have agreed to respond with unity. You have full authorization to proceed with Operation Sunrise." The Russian president nodded. All global military forces are now under unified command. National differences are suspended until this conflict is resolved. The Chinese premier added, "Our orbital platforms are armed and ready. Our ground forces are mobilized. We stand together." One by one, leaders from every corner of Earth spoke. Japan, Germany, Brazil, India, Nigeria, Australia, dozens of nations, hundreds of cultures, billions of people. All of them united for the first time in human history, because that was what humanity did when faced with a threat. They stopped fighting each other. They came together. They became something greater than any single nation or army could ever be. "Understood," Yuna said. "Operation Sunrise will begin at dawn. All fleet commanders, prepare your ships. All ground commanders, prepare your soldiers. In 12 hours, we launch." She closed the communication and stood alone for a moment, looking at the screens. The alien fleet was already moving toward Earth. Sensors showed thousands of ships jumping into nearby systems. The Council was not wasting time. They wanted to crush humanity before humanity could fight back, but they were too late. Humanity had been ready for years. They had just been waiting for permission. Yuna thought about her grandmother, who had died without ever seeing the stars. She thought about her father, who had spent his life as a diplomat, trying to make peace with aliens who hated everything human. She thought about all the generations of her family who had looked up at the sky and wondered if they would ever be allowed to leave. Now they would not just leave. They would conquer. They would take their place in the galaxy, not as beggars or servants, but as equals. As warriors. As the species that the Council had been right to fear all along. Yuna smiled as she watched the fleet prepare for launch. The aliens thought they were coming to destroy a helpless planet. They thought humanity was weak and unprepared. They thought this war would be easy. They were about to learn the truth. Humanity had never been weak. Humanity had just been waiting. And now, at last, the waiting was over. Admiral Doan stood at the window of his office, looking up at the night sky. The stars were bright tonight. Somewhere out there, beyond the darkness, millions of alien species lived their lives. They built cities. They made families. They traded with each other. And they all agreed on one thing. Humans were not welcome. For 50 years, Earth had tried to join the Galactic Council. 50 years of sending messages. 50 years of building better ships. 50 years of proving that humanity was ready to take its place among the stars. And for 50 years, the answer had always been the same. No. Duhan remembered the first contact. He was just a young man then, working as a junior officer in the space program. The whole world had celebrated when the alien ship appeared near Mars. People danced in the streets. They believed that everything would change. Humanity would finally have friends in the universe. But the aliens did not come as friends. They came with a warning. Stay on your planet, they had said. Do not leave your solar system. You are not ready. You may never be ready. When Earth asked why, the aliens gave a simple answer. Humans were dangerous. Humans were violent. Humans could not be trusted. The galaxy had seen species like humanity before. Warlike creatures who destroyed everything they touched. The Council had decided long ago that such species should be contained. Earth would remain isolated until humanity proved it had changed. But how could humanity prove anything if no one would give them a chance? Daohan turned away from the window. His desk was covered with reports. Failed missions. Rejected requests. Diplomatic messages that were never answered. He had spent his entire career trying to open doors that refused to open. His assistant, a young woman named Jisoo, entered the room. She carried a tablet in her hands, and her face looked worried. "Admiral," she said, "we received another response from the Council." Daohan did not need to ask what it said. He could see it in her eyes. They said no again. Jisoo nodded. They did not even read our proposal. The message was returned with a standard rejection notice. They said Earth's application for observer status has been denied for the 47th time. 47 times. Daohan laughed, but there was no happiness in the sound. He had been a young captain when they sent the first application. Now he was an old admiral, and nothing had changed. What reason did they give this time? He asked. Jisoo looked at her tablet. They said humanity shows no signs of evolving past its violent nature. They referenced our history, the wars, the weapons. They said that allowing humans into galactic society would be like releasing a disease. A disease. That was what the galaxy thought of them. 8 billion people on Earth, and to the Council, they were nothing more than germs to be kept in a bottle. Daohan walked to his desk and sat down heavily. His bones ached. He was getting too old for this job. But who would replace him? The younger officers had grown up hearing nothing but rejection. Many of them had stopped believing that things could ever be different. There is something else, Jisoo said carefully. A message from the Defense Ministry. She handed him the tablet. Daohan read the message twice before he understood what it meant. His hands began to shake. They are moving forward with the project, he said quietly. Jisoo nodded. The final tests were successful. Everything is ready. They just need your authorization. For a long moment, Daohan did not speak. He thought about his career. All those years of trying to make peace. All those years of believing that diplomacy could work. He had truly wanted humanity to join the galaxy as friends. He had believed that if they just kept trying, the Council would eventually see that humans had changed. But humans had not changed. That was the truth Daohan had never wanted to accept. Humanity was exactly what the aliens feared. They were warriors. They were builders. They were survivors who had clawed their way up from the mud and would not stop until they reached the stars. The Council was right to be afraid. Daohan looked at the authorization request. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, hidden in secret bases that no satellite could detect, humanity had been building. Not diplomatic ships. Not peaceful research stations. They had been building weapons, warships, an entire fleet designed for one purpose: to take what the galaxy refused to give. For 50 years, humanity had played the role of the beggar, asking politely for permission to leave their cage. But the whole time, they had been preparing for the day when they would stop asking. "Admiral?" Jisoo asked. "What should I tell them?" Dohan thought about the generations of humans who had looked up at the stars and dreamed. Children who wondered if they would ever meet alien friends. Scientists who spent their lives searching for a way to make peace. Diplomats who believed that words could build bridges across the void. All of them had failed. All of them had been rejected. The galaxy did not want peace with humanity. The galaxy wanted humanity to stay small and weak and trapped on their little planet forever. But humanity was not small. Humanity was not weak. And humanity was very, very tired of being trapped. Dohan picked up his pen. His hand was steady now. The decision had already been made long ago by people far wiser than him. He was just the one who had to sign the paper. "Tell them to continue preparations," he said. "And tell them to wait for my signal. When the time comes, we need to be ready." Jisoo took the tablet back. She paused at the door. "Do you really think it will happen, sir? Do you think they will ever give us a reason?" Dohan smiled. It was a cold smile, one that did not reach his eyes. "The Council has made its position very clear. They will never accept us. They will never welcome us. They have decided that humanity is their enemy." He turned back to the window and looked up at the stars one more time. "Sooner or later," he said, "they will act on that decision. And when they do, we will be ready to show them exactly what kind of enemy we can be." Somewhere in the darkness of space, the Galactic Council was meeting. They were discussing the human problem. They were making plans. They believed that Earth was helpless. They believed that humanity had no choice but to obey. They were wrong. And soon, very soon, they would understand just how wrong they had been.